what I did want to do is an extension of that last part of the hadith. It says, I prefer the Arabic. مجالس الذكر في مساجدي يقول الله تعالى ملائكتي هم القوم لا يشقى جليسهم. Right? So that I wanted to go from there to talk about Rabi al-Awwal bi-idhnillah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the birth month of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Because look what the hadith is saying. Okay? It's saying those people who are in the gatherings of the remembrance of Allah, the remembrance of dhikr, the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those people won't be in the hellfire. Right? Those people won't be shaqi. Those people won't be... Sa'id means happy, so I suppose the other side is depressed. But depressed is hazan. It's a bit of a difficult word. But those people won't be in the hellfire. And so in this month of Rabi al-Awwal, it's the birth month of the Prophet ﷺ. It's narrated that he was born on the 12th of Rabi al-Awwal. That in this month, that traditionally throughout the Muslim world, that people have celebrated the Prophet of Allah ﷺ. Not just his birth, because it's not just about his birth. It's about his birth. It's about before his birth, ﷺ. It's about what they call the mithaq, right? The Anbiya, they all took a mithaq. It's a covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's really what we're celebrating. And when we talk about the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, we have to see who he is. And that's what this month, that's what the scholars, the Salaf, that's what the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, the Tabi'at-Tabi'een, that's what all the righteous people throughout history have done. They've used this occasion, this birth month of the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, as an excuse, if you like, to remember the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, to mention the virtues of the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, to mention the sira, the biography of the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, to mention the history of the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, to mention how Allah's mentioned the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, to mention how the Prophet's mentioned himself ﷺ in the prophetic tradition. So for us, for those alhamdulillah that believe in the shahadatan, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, there's two fundamental aspects to our faith. Firstly, to believe in Allah, and to believe in Muhammad ﷺ as the final messenger sent to humankind by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the final revelation that supersedes all other revelations. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends the angels, right, to be around those people who remember him subhanahu wa ta'ala and remember the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, in this month, it should be exacerbated. In other words, we should increase in the remembrance of the Prophet ﷺ, because in reality, he's the secret. In reality, he's the secret to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The way to get to Allah, the secret of the way to get into Allah Azza wa Jal is through the Prophet ﷺ. إِن كُنتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهُ وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ ذُنُوبَكُمْ. Whoever loves إِن كُنتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ, if you claim that you love Allah, emulate me, emulate the Prophet ﷺ. Because the Prophet, he's the one who told us there's not one letter, right? There's not one letter in the Qur'an that didn't come from his mouth, alayhi salatu wasalam. His Mubarak mouth. Yeah, Sahih, it's a revelation from Allah, no question. But if it didn't come from the vocal cords of the Prophet of Allah, from the tongue of the Prophet ﷺ, we would never have got it. So if anyone has doubt in the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, then they got doubt in the Qur'an. It's impossible, because Anbiya, one of their qualities, one of their virtues is al-amana. They're trustworthy, right? So if someone says, oh, the Prophet this, that, this, they make up some garbage about the Prophet ﷺ, something that's untrue, and they say, oh, we only believe in Qur'an. How did you get the Qur'an, champ? Where did it come from? It came from his mouth, alayhi salatu wasalam. Came from his vocal cords, alayhi salatu. If he was untrustworthy, he could have said anything. It would have been written down by the Sahaba, and it would have been put in the Mus'haf, and then Sayyidina Uthman, when he kept it, we would have had that. But that's not the case, because he's a Sadiq al-Amin. And that's the quality of all prophets, is al-amana. There's no khiyana, there's no treachery in the prophets. So for us, it's an excuse. It's an excuse, like in Ramadan, right? What do we focus on in Ramadan, outside of the fasting? What was that? Taqwa, definitely, if you can get it. Right? Qur'an. Isn't it the month of the Qur'an? It's an excuse. If you want to use another word, right? You want to use another word. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Qur'an in Laylatul Qadr. Does that mean we should read the Qur'an? It's an excuse, right? It's an excuse to remember it. in Dhul Hijjah, when everyone goes off to Hajj, right? Those who don't go off to Hajj, what do? They don't cut their fingernails, they fast, Arafah. Why? It's an excuse, for use of a better word, right? I'm trying to make a point. It's an excuse, right? To say that Hajj is on, let's worship Allah more. In شو اسمه اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا Muhammad, Ashura, right? The Prophet, that's how he did it. Or what are the Jews doing when when he came to Medina, saw the Jews fasting on the 10th of Muharram. What are they doing? He asked. They're fasting. Why? Because that's when Allah emancipated them and Sayyidina Musa from Fir'aun. We have priority to Sayyidina Musa over them. We're going to do it. It's an excuse, for use of a better word. It's not. It's divine decree. But I'm just using that word to bring it in and talk about Rabi al-Awwal. Right? It's why would we not celebrate the Prophet of Allah? Why would we not talk about him every single day of the year? Not only every single day of the year, every single hour of the day. What about the Sahabi who came to Rasulullah? He said, Ya Rasulullah, if I dedicate so much time to making salawat, he said a third. He said, is that good? He said, in zitta khair, if you increase, it's good. The Prophet said, what about half? He said, yeah, that's good. What about 3/4? That's good. He said, then the Prophet said, if you made all your time salawat on me, I forget what the hadith is, but if you made all your time salawat on me, Allah would give you such and such. All your time salawat on the Prophet of Allah, Allah would give you such and such and such. He's telling him, telling the Sahaba that, spend all your time making salawat on me. We need an excuse? We don't, but because we're so busy in our lives and we're doing whatever we're doing the rest of the year, the scholars and the Sahaba and the righteous people, the awliya, these people, they made an excuse for us. So for some time during the year, we can remember the Prophet of Allah. We can remember that he was before Sayyidina Adam. He says, alayhi I was the first, that's the mithaq, the covenant. I was the first to take the covenant. It's what he says in the hadith, Sahih hadith as well. I was the first to take the covenant before Sayyidina, I'm the first prophet to take the covenant and the last bi'thatan. In other words, the last to come to life. And then he was asked, alayhi when were you a prophet, Ya Rasulullah? He said, when Adam was between a soul and between a body. It was between being a soul and between being a body. In other words, between life coming into Sayyidina Adam, before life came into Sayyidina Adam. And there's a lot of conjecture amongst the scholars about how that came about and how that was. So when we hear what Habib Muhammad said, he says, and he's quoting from the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that those people that are in the gatherings of remembrance, the angels are amongst them, as we said previously. And the people whom the angels are amongst shall never go to the hellfire. La yashqa. Or this is La yashqa. They won't be of those people that are denied from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They'll be those people whom Allah is pleased with. So that's the reason. So the colloquial word that we're hearing these days is Mawlid. What kind of a word is that? What about fiqh? What kind of a word is that? Fiqh, ilm al-fiqh. What does fiqh mean in Arabic language? Understanding. But that's not really what it is. It's not understanding. It's law. Are you with me or have I lost you? Something more, right? It's called fiqh, right? What's halal and what's haram. What does the word fiqh mean in Arabic? It means to understand. But that's not what it is. It's law. But that's the word that was termed for it. That's the word that it became popular, that word fiqh. And so till now we use the word fiqh. Mawlid is the same. What's a Mawlid? Has anyone ever been to a Mawlid? What do they do at a Mawlid? They remember what about the Prophet ﷺ? How he lived, how he died, what he did, what he went, what Allah said about him, who his forefathers were, who his mother was, who his father was, who his uncles were, what he did, ﷺ, what Allah had planned for him, his virtues, basically. What's wrong with that? Or is that haram? Of course not. What did he say ﷺ in the hadith? If you spend all your time making salawat on me, it'd be okay. Now here we are the scholars, the awliya, the salihin, the righteous people saying that just this month focus. It shouldn't be only this month, it should be all the time, but just to remind us, an excuse. So that's what a Mawlid is. It's about the dhikr as-sira. It's the remembrance of the prophetic life and what he means to us and what he means to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sayyidina Adam, when he was created, he looked on the arsh, what did he see? He said, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. And when he made the mistake, they say, when he made the mistake, Sayyidina Adam, and he ate from the tree, him and his wife, him and Hawa, Sayyidatna Hawa, what did he say to Allah? He said, forgive me because of him, because of this person, Muhammad. How did you know about Muhammad? He said, he's on the arsh. His name's on the arsh. And there's some hadith that are not so strong. In other words, some da'if, some hasan, mursal, etc., etc. You don't have to worry about that. But some hadith that say, if it wasn't for Sayyidina Muhammad, Allah wouldn't have made Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam. That's how immense his status is, alayhi salatu wasalam. That's how immense his status is, alayhi salatu wasalam. And when we look at the celebration of the Prophet of alayhi salam, the biggest celebration of the Prophet alayhi salam was on the Day of Judgement. That's the ultimate celebration of the Prophet of alayhi salam. So some people in this world, they've got a bit of issue, some Muslims in this world, they've got a bit of issue with what they call mubalagha, like overdoing it when it comes to the Prophet sallam. Hey, you can't. Allah's already spoken about it. He said, Ana Sayyidu Walad Adam. I am the Sayyid, the top of the range, the best of all of the children of Sayyidina Adam. He says, alayhi salam, Wala fakhar. He said, I'm not showing off. That's just how it is. Because what? لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. He is the best of examples. So if he's not the best of the best human being, the epitome of human beings, of a human being, then how can we follow him? How can we emulate him? And to love Allah, if we truly love Allah, what do we have to do? Emulate him. Are you following me or am I losing you? Is 1 + 1 still equaling 2, or are the equation's falling apart? Too many variables. Are we cool? Are you sure? No? You got it? Right? Because if we don't love him that much, then how are we going to go there? How do you think you're going to go there? How do you think you're going to go there? But through loving the Prophet ﷺ. And to love someone, you got to know him. Yeah? You got to know him. Imagine if you went to your mum or your dad, whoever, and he said, I heard about this dude and I want to marry him. What? Are you crazy? You just heard about him and you want to marry him. What do you know? Where is he? Where's he from? Who's his father? Who's his mother? Right? What does he do? What's he done? Where's he gone? Where's he been? That's just to marry someone. That's just here. What about to follow someone? To emulate someone? We don't know who he is. We don't know who his mother was. We don't know who his father was. We don't know how his childhood was. We don't know what he looked like, alayhi salatu wasalam. We don't know what his mannerisms were. We don't know how he ate, how he sat, how he dressed, how he talked, how he walked. How are we going to love that person? How is it even acceptable? It's not even acceptable to marry someone or go into business with someone. Oh, I met someone on the train. I want to give him a couple of $100,000, right? To go. Everyone's going to go, what? Are you nuts? Are you crazy? There's something wrong with you. You got to do your due diligence. You got to make sure you know who that person is. How are we going to be the beloved of Allah if we don't know who the beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is? How? It's impossible. It doesn't work. So that's in this life. What about, and who can see Allah in this life? Can't. So what about on the day when we see Allah? Rabbihim nadhira. What's what it says in the Qur'an? On the day of judgment, see Allah. Certain people will, certain people won't. Who on that day can go to Allah and say, forgive me? Who? Can you go to Sayyidina Adam? Will he go? Nuh alayhi salam. Ibrahim, Khalil Allah. What? He's the Khalil of Allah. Best buddy with Allah. BFF of Allah. Sayyidina Ibrahim, can you get? No. Musa, what about Sayyidina Musa? He's Kalim Allah. No, it doesn't work. Isa, Ruh Allah. Can't. There's only one. That's why on the day when we can see Allah, don't worry about nothing except the Prophet of Allah. On the day when you can see him. But when we can't see him, we don't want to worry about him. How's that make sense? How's that logical? How's that reasonable? How's that acceptable? How is it acceptable for the believer when they can't see Allah to forget Rasulullah or to not ta'zeem, to give him his due alayhi to magnify his greatness alayhi to talk about how awesome he is alayhi talk about how much we love the Prophet alayhi talk about when he did this, how awesome it was and how much we learned from it and how much it changed the world and changed humanity and whatever it did. Yeah? Then what about then? There's only one way. They come to the Prophet, everyone comes to all the prophets, they say, go away, I can't help you. All the prophets we just mentioned, except Rasulullah says, Ana laha, Ana laha. I was created for that thing, because on that day, on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be so ghadab. Wrath of Allah will be so great that He's never been so angry before, nor will He be so angry again on the day of judgment. Imagine that. Imagine that. Imagine your mum, your dad, husband, wife, brother, sister, someone you love dearly being angry at you. That they've never been that angry before. You don't know what to do. Don't know how to act, what to say, how to calm them down. Allah, there's only one thing that calms Allah Azza wa Jal down. That's Rasulullah said. That's it. Nothing else. He goes to the Arsh and he makes sajda. وَلَسَوْفَ نَعْتِيكَ No. وَلَسَوْفَ يَعْتِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى. That's the Allah Azza wa Jalla. He's going to say, Ya Allah, forgive them. And it's only because of the intercession, all right? Only because of the intercession of the Prophet of Allah that anyone enters Jannah. Only because of that. And we don't want to celebrate. And we've got a problem, or it's haram. What do you mean it's haram? What do you mean it's haram to celebrate, do a Mawlid? Like I said, it's just a word. Mawlid, to remember when he was born, but not remembering just when he was born, but remembering who he was and what he did and the status that Allah Azza wa Jal gave him and how we want to know who he is and what he's about so we can love him, so we can truly love him. There's one thing, like there's a lot of you here in this month, it's haram and blah 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 and mabar shum, mabar and bid'ah and jart and jurt and whatever and this and that, and you hear heaps of stuff. You'll see heaps of stuff on the internet, on Facebook, experts. All of a sudden, those people, yeah, you know who it is? Those people that don't follow anyone. It's those people, because they know everything, mashallah. Whoa, right? They know everything, so they're the ones who are going to be share, dislike. Is there a dislike button? Because I wish I had one sometimes, right? Yeah. Don't like this, that, whatever it is, etc., etc. They're the ones going off. They don't even know what they're talking about. And Imam al-Qaradawi, he's still alive, mashallah. He's one of the foremost scholars of the earth. He really summarized it really nicely. You could probably find it. He said that the only time it would be haram to do a Mawlid is to do, in other words, a celebration of the sira of the Prophet, and whether they're singing or chanting or whatever, that's all jaiz in our deen anyway, right? The only time it would be haram is if someone did it on the 12th of Rabi al-Awwal, the 12th of this month, and said that's the only day it's permissible to do it on. That's what he said, Imam al-Qaradawi. You can probably email him if you spoke Arabic, and he'll respond to you, because he's alive, mashallah. He's one of the foremost scholars of our time. And that's what he said. The only time it would be haram if someone did a Mawlid on the 12th of Rabi al-Awwal, on the 12th of this month, because that's the day they said he was born, alayhi salatu wasalam, and said it's haram or impermissible or not to do it on any other day during the year. And that's not, I haven't come across any group or sheikh that says that. No.
So what was the word used? Jazir? He said that
the singing and chanting is...
Jaiz is permissible. Permissible. Sorry about that. It's permissible to sing and chant. It's okay, it's not an issue. They do it to make it light, right? To make it memorable, so you can memorize it as well. They do those things like that. So that's the hukum, right? That's Imam al-Qaradawi. It's not my words. It's not what I'm saying, right? I didn't make this stuff up. I don't own the deen. I'm not the only one. I don't hardly know anything about it. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. And so just so you don't get weird about it. And just because someone does it as a Mawlid or whatever, a celebration of the Prophet ﷺ on the 12th of the Hijjah of Rabi al-Awwal, the 12th of this month, it doesn't mean it's haram either. Only if they say that it shouldn't be done on any other day or it's impermissible to be done. That's it. And I haven't come across anyone ever that said that. So I wanted to clear that up firstly, so you feel comfortable about it. How is it a bid'ah? Right, how is it a bid'ah? The people who are saying it's bid'ah don't even know what bid'ah is. Bid'ah is an innovation. So the only time would be a bid'ah is to get this microphone, for example, and say the Prophet ﷺ, he had a microphone like this, and he used to pin it. How many buttons are there? 1, 2, between his second and third button. That's a bid'ah. I just made it up, and I said the Prophet did it. Yeah? But if I come and get this and I put it here between the whatever second and third button, right? It's not a bid'ah. As long as I don't say the Prophet did it, alayhi salatu wasalam. And it's a big area, but that's the crux of it. As long as you don't say the Prophet did that, how can it be a bid'ah? How can it be a bid'ah? It can't, unless you say the Prophet did that. So, as long as when we look at that, the Prophet ﷺ, he told al-Hassan ibn Thabit, he built a mimbar for him in his masjid, so he could do poetry, and that's basically how they do it. They do the prophetic, the Mawlid, the life of the Prophet in poetry, because they're Arabs. They love poetry. That's how they express themselves. Like today, how do we express ourselves? It used to be breakdancing. Remember breakdancing in the 80s? Right? People used to breakdance. What do they do today to express themselves? They go on their social media and express themselves. So whatever, that was the format people expressed themselves in, is poetry. And they're not reading stuff that's that recent generally. Generally they're reading like, what's it called, the Burda al-Busayri or someone. They're reading someone's, So it's not a bid'ah unless you say the Prophet read the Mawlid in that way. Okay? And haram, some people say it's haram. How can the dhikr of Allah or the remembrance of the Prophet be haram? The only time it's haram is if you do it where the toilet is, or at a mazbala, at a place where there's refuse and garbage, or somewhere that's, it's a qadar, like it's a disgusting place to do it. Other than that, and if someone's junub as well, someone's in janaba, they're in a ritual state of impurity because of intercourse or whatever, because of ejaculation, then they shouldn't be doing the reciting the Qur'an or doing the dhikr. Other than that, it's not haram. You can't give the hukm, except what Imam al-Qaradawi said, if someone was to do it just on the 12th of Rabi' al-Awwal, and so that's the only day it's jais. So hopefully that clears it up for you, because we don't want to have any ittirab. We don't want to be perturbed about the Prophet ﷺ. Like he says, إِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. Allah Azza wa Jalla says he's azim, his disposition is immense, is amazing. We can't say enough about the Prophet ﷺ, except to say that he's Allah wa na'udhu billah, or he's not a human being wa na'udhu billah, or to compare him to Allah in some way. He's not. No question about that. No one says that. No, I've never come across anyone who says that. Right? So other than that, what is it that he didn't do? He showed us Allah. Without him, we wouldn't know about fasting, we wouldn't know about the Qur'an, we wouldn't know about praying, we wouldn't know how many rak'at, we wouldn't know what to read in our prayers, we wouldn't know how to sit in our prayers, we wouldn't know any of these things. We wouldn't know. Even we wouldn't be praying to the Qibla. Only for the love of the Prophet ﷺ that Allah changed. Allah changed the Qibla, test the believers as well, and to put the non-believers or disbelievers on show. But it's because he used to always ask, Allah, I love the Kaaba, turn it back to that place. He did it for him, alayhi salatu wasalam. And it's for his love of the Prophet ﷺ that he's going to forgive us. The Prophet's going to intercede for us. And none of us will enter Jannah except that we drink out of his hand, alayhi salatu wasalam. It's conditional. And he's got a hawd that's already there, alayhi salatu wasalam. He's got like a pond or a billabong if you're an Aussie. Right? He's got a body of water that's it's whiter than milk and colder than ice and sweeter than honey. And we drink from it to go there. And he keeps making sajda until he appeases the wrath of Allah Azza wa Jal. When we see Allah, the only way through to Allah is through the Prophet ﷺ. When we see Allah, we're seeing Allah. What about when we don't see Allah? How much should we be connected to the Prophet of Allah ﷺ? So inshallah, my advice is go to a Mawlid, go to one of these things, the celebrations, see what it's like, feel the feeling, enjoy, have a good time. And I went to an African one the other time. They had an African one. The thing was going off, mashallah. They had these drums. It was really upbeat. It was really, really nice. East African, I think it was East African one. It was really good. It was awesome. And then sometimes you might even see people, they dance and things. It's not haram to dance. Dancing isn't haram. It's haram if a man dances like a woman, effeminately, that becomes haram. And it's haram if a woman dances in front of her non-mahrams. Yeah? Or it's haram if you listen to music that's inappropriate and dance to it. But sometimes you might see guys, they twirl, they spin, they do something. That's their business. But it's not haram. One time the Prophet ﷺ, he said to Sayyidina Ali and his brother Ja'far al-Tayyar, he said to Sayyidina Ali, you're most, I forget which one it was. He said to one of them, you're most like me in appearance, and he said to the other one, you're most like me in disposition. And they lost it. They lost it. They're spinning around. They became overwhelmed. They became overwhelmed. So these things, just because someone who's doing their own thing because they don't want to follow anyone is on, they've got thousands of followers even. It's not, don't think it's just, they got followers, these people, but they're on their own. They're the ones who lead the people, but they're really on their own. They're separate disparate from the body of the believers. And they're on their own. Like Albani, he's one of them. I don't want to but this is historical fact. He was in Damascus and he called himself a muhaddith, right? And the people of Damascus, throughout, it's one of the oldest cities in the world. It's one of the oldest cities, Damascus. The scholars of the time said he's not even a scholar. He doesn't even rate amongst the scholars. And in the end, they asked him to leave because of what he was doing. He wasn't following anyone. He was doing his own thing. Now he's got a following. This is historical fact. You don't need to. You can look him up and you can see what happened to him. Look up his biography, how he got kicked out, and what he went and did, and how he looked at the hadith he tried. And I'll tell you later. I mentioned it, but I don't want to keep mentioning it. I'll tell you after, inshallah. Right? And how he what he did to Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, and he's saying Bukhari made mistakes and all these things, which a person might be entitled to do if they were of the reputation. If the other scholars, again, the consensus of the scholars was that person was qualified to do that, they'd all follow that person. But the exact opposite happened. They said, hey, stay away from that person. He's not really qualified. Right? So I don't want you to have any doubt in your heart about the Prophet of Allah. I don't want you to have any doubt in your heart about how much you should love the Prophet of Allah. Ask Sayyidina Umar. I'll finish on this. Ask Sayyidina Umar. He came up to the Prophet ﷺ, right? And he said to him, Ya Rasulullah, I love you more than my mum and my dad and everything, except my own nafs, myself. He said, sorry Umar, it doesn't work. The Prophet ﷺ. And then Umar said, Umar went and had to think about it, came back and said, Ya Rasulullah, I love you more than myself. He said, Al-ana ya Umar. Now ya Umar. This is Sayyidina Umar al-Faruq. He differentiated between truth and falsehood. He learned how to do that because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Qur'an, an-nabawi or an-nabawi awla bil mu'minina min anfusihim. Nabi or Rasul? In-nabi awla bil mu'minina min anfusihim. That Allah says in the Qur'an, that the Prophet of Allah should take pride for the believer, the true believer. The Prophet should have priority over his or her own nafs. In other words, one's own soul. In other words, whatever he says goes above what we say. Whatever he told us goes above what we think. Whatever he taught us goes above our own philosophy. That's the group. All right? That's not being one on their own, doing their own thing. That's the group. Yeah? And even the Sahabiyat, the lady Sahabis, she brought her child when the Prophet was going off on a campaign. She said, Ya Rasulullah, take my baby. Rasul said, what do you want me to do with your baby? She said, use him as a shield, Ya Rasulullah. That's how much they love the Prophet of Allah. Of course, the Prophet didn't do it, but it's an example of how much they loved him. And that's how we should love him. That's proper, right? To kind of be scared and say, oh, I'm a bit worried that I'm going to do shirk. No, you're not. How are you going to do shirk? Allah's Allah and he's the Prophet of Allah. There's no comparison between the two. There's no comparison. Allah's Allah. And Allah is what He is, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Laysa kamithlihi shay. Right? But the Prophet is makhluk. He was born, he had a mother, he had a father, he lived, he died, he ate, he went to the bathroom, and we know how he went to the bathroom, and we emulate that in our lives. And he died. There's no comparison in that way. But the status given to him by Allah Azza wa Jal, the status that he intercedes, that he taught us, that the Qur'an was revealed to him, these things. These are the things we celebrate. Alright, is there any questions about any of those things? Please ask, alright? Because if you've heard things, if someone said something to you, please ask so we can clarify, because there should be no block between our love for the Prophet ﷺ and a love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No.
Sheikh, is it possible for someone to go into Jannah without the intercession of Rasulullah?
It's a good question. So the question is it possible for someone to go into Jannah without the intercession? No one can leave the Maidan of the day, the field of judgment day without his intercession. If the Prophet doesn't intercede for the Ummah, for the believers, Allah is going to stay angry, right? Imagine, I go to court all the time, but imagine going to, I went today actually, and the judge was angry today actually. So it's a good example, right? She was angry and she was just smashing everyone. Everyone wanted something and she didn't do anything. The cases that were in, because normally you wait your turn till your case comes up, but you wait inside the courtroom. So people were asking for stuff, just I'm setting it down for trial. In other words, get your act together. Just smashing everyone. And our turn came. I wanted to go to trial, so I was all right. And straight away, Her Honour, she said, that's it. It's going to trial. Straight away. Angry. What can you do with someone who's angry? When someone's angry, and we're talking that Allah has never been angrier before and never will be angrier again. If Allah wanted to take someone to account on one thing they did, on one look they look, one thought that they allowed to fester and flourish in their mind, what's going to happen? One thing, not a series of things, one thing. You knew, you believed in La ilaha, anyone has to go, you can go, no worries, inshallah. Allah said, don't eat this haram, and a person ate it. Don't look at that thing, the person looked at it. What's going to happen? You're going to say, oh, what's your excuse? Allah's going to say, oh, Ya Allah, I was a bit tired that day. Yeah, but didn't I give you your eyes? Didn't I give you your ears? Didn't I give you your faculty? Didn't I give you your body? Didn't I create the earth for you? Didn't I put the sun there for the earth to go around in orbit? Didn't I create gravity? Didn't I create an atmosphere? Didn't I? What are you going to answer? So in reality, Hajj, the answer is no. In reality. Because the only way Allah's anger is, the only way the anger of Allah is appeased is how? The Prophet of Allah. So if his anger is not appeased, if the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala isn't appeased, then how is anyone going to get to Jannah? And say, oh yeah, just like the judge today, go, Jahannam and a'udhu billah Jahannam. It's subhanAllah. If he wants to take us to it, who lived this life without ever making one mistake ever? No one. Except that Rasulullah is different. So in reality, that's how it is.
Even the people who enter Jannah without other, do they also need the intercession?
Of course, because the ghadab of Allah. So the question is, what about those who enter paradise? Because they can't get to paradise without, they can't leave the Maidan, the field of the Day of Judgment without the no one's going nowhere, in other words. Allah's just going to punish people right there, send people where they have to be sent without that intercession. Because ghadab, it's not just the anger, it's ghadab, it's wrath. No.
Does that mean he also intercedes for the Ummah before him? Because doesn't he say Ummati? Like what about the other Ummah?
Yeah, so the question is, does he intercede for the other Ummah? Starts off with we're the last Ummah to come on earth, and we're the first Ummah to enter Jannah. And then from that, when Allah's anger is appeased, then he deals with the rest of the Ummah. But don't forget that every prophet came, they told about Sayyidina Rasulullah alayhi salam. So those who believed in him from their prophet, they'll for sure get the intercession of the Prophet alayhi salam. Others, I'm not sure, I don't know. One question before yours? No.
Yeah, is it one-on-one intercession?
That's a good question. Is it one-on-one intercession? If you're someone who's close to the Prophet ﷺ, it could be a one-on-one intercession. Generally, it's ummati, as was said. He says, because every prophet has one dua that is accepted 100%. And all the prophets used theirs up in this life, except the Prophet ﷺ saved his for the Day of Judgment, because he knows Allah is going to be that wrathful, if that's the right word, and he's going to use it on that day. We'll let him finish, and then maybe it's a related question.
No, it's a separate question. You said festering thoughts. You get sins for your thoughts.
So what I said there, in other words, some weird thing comes to one person's mind, right? Rather than measuring that up against the Sharia, what's halal, the deen of Allah, they just don't do that, and they just, like indulge in their own thoughts about whatever it might be, and it's against the deen. The person will get counted for that. If it's just a fleeting thought, like whatever, I want to do something that's, whatever, and it's just a fleeting thought, it comes, a person processes and says, nah, that's haram, or Allah would have liked that, the Prophet would have liked that, no. But only if a person says, yes, that what's in my head, like for example, someone wants to do zina, adultery, or fornicate. have sex, in other words. They know it's haram, but they don't care. And they go out every day with the intention of doing zina. It's haram. If they don't do it, right? If they don't do it, they don't actually do it, they get a hasanah. But the thought of wanting to do it and wanting to put, be in a khalwa with a non-mahram and things like that, it's haram. Yeah, we can't have that thought. We can't
Even
have
though
that
you
thought.
get a hasanat for having
You get a hasanah for not actually doing it. That's the action. But the thought, because it's a thought that's been thought of, it's been processed, and asar, they say, the ulama say asar. A person's adamant they want to do it. So if the circumstance doesn't come about if the circumstance doesn't come about where they can do it, they're athim. But if the circumstance, in other words, they're sinful. But if the circumstance comes about where they can do it and they don't do it, that's when they get the hasanah. That's when they get the reward. You with me? So a person walking around the street going, I want to do haram, I want to do haram, I want to do haram, that's sinful. Sinful. Like, we can't have that intention. Even it's sinful to support sinful thoughts. Like someone doesn't drink but they're happy that so-and-so is drinking. That's sinful too. So it's those types of thoughts that we've processed, we've thought about, and we're adamant that we want to do it. I mean, even whether we know it, our thoughts should be measured up against the scale of the Sharia. It's not, like I said, fleeting thoughts, or someone comes across their mind, they see someone who's attractive or whatever, or they're feeling excited, and then they want to do zina. It's a fleeting thought. It's not that. It's the person when they had the thought, they processed it, and they're adamant about it. That's when it's, of course, yeah. Can't go, however we think will be. So we can't go around thinking about doing haram things.
You're saying the intention part is the having the intention is the dangerous part.
Well, it's the haram part. Is saying that I want to do, someone, when Allah wants to do something that's haram, I just use sex because it's out there. That's what goes on, That's what, all going on the internet looking for things that lead to that, all those sorts of things, definitely. No.
Is there a cap on people that can get into Jannatul Firdaus?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so the question is there a cap on the people that can get into Jannatul Firdaus? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does what He wills and does what He wants. The cap is the actions of those people. So this is what the scholars say. To get into Jannah, get through the doors, right, through the gates, that's only through the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through the mercy of Allah, through the compassion of Allah. But the levels that we have in Jannah is according to our deeds. So that's the cap. The cap is, are there enough people who are to that standard, right, Nobel Prize winners or whatever you want, they that to that level where Allah will admit them into the highest of high paradises. Tamam? Alright, so we all cook. No.
I was just going to say, so recapping the entire month of the Prophet's birth. Theoretically, there's the only virtue of this month is the fact that there's other people doing it at the same time. So theoretically, it could be a month in January, February, means nothing. You could, someone could just say, hey, we're doing remembrance at this time, and that would be fine.
In theory, in theory. But practically speaking, I was just making a point. So in theory, it could be any month, any time. It doesn't have to be Rabi al-Awwal. It could be. But the scholars use that as a catalyst, because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you remember the day that, and we know what day it is, why wouldn't you remember the Prophet? I was just saying that because I know there's a lot of, like, even at the khutbah today, the Shaykh was going off, and then he's like, it was all good, at the end he's like, be careful, don't do Mawlid. It's like, what are you on about? Like, are you serious? After that great khutbah that you gave the whole sira of the Prophet ﷺ, and he said, what are you doing? Like, that's, you're taking people away from remembering the Prophet ﷺ and his biography. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's the antithesis. That's the opposite of what our deen is about.
So this was a little bit different to sort of maybe what Haram was doing, but it's mainly being done recently because we're sort of not remembering the Prophet as much, so it's used as an excuse.
It's not now. It's been through the generations of the the Ummah has done that. The Ummah has done that for generations. Yeah. They've remembered the Prophet.
But it's like a little bit different to maybe what Sahaba were doing because maybe they were close to the Prophet.
Right, the Sahaba, they used to praise the Prophet. They used to make poetry to say to his face. So it's an extension of that.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
It's more like focusing it, condensing it into like a month rather.
Well, now we don't use the words because they said like a couple of abiyat. They call poetry house, and
The stanzas.
No, they're not stanzas, are they? Is it a stanza of poetry? 2 lines? Alright. They used to only say a few stanzas of poetry. Couplets? Whatever the technical term for poetry rather than prose is. They used to say a couple, but now they do it like this East African 1184 was a killer. It went for like 6 hours, mashallah. These guys were going. They got stamina, those Africans, man, mashallah. Was that racist? Mashallah, they kept on, mashallah, like they were going. They kept on going. So because they make it longer, they use different poetry than was used by the Sahaba. But the Sahaba used to make poetry and say it to his face, alayhi salatu wassalam. So it's not an innovation in that way. But it is an extension of what they used to do, and in our faith there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And where it can overstep the bounds is where you start attributing things that are only to Allah, to the Prophet.
100%.
If you're asking Rasulullah for forgiveness, or you're asking Rasulullah to provide you with something.
Yeah, so like in terms of the Prophet ﷺ, of course we can ask him to forgive us because he's given us sunnah, and if we're not following that sunnah, we're not following his way, Ya Rasulullah, forgive me for not following your way. Like if someone's wronged you, they would ask for your forgiveness. So it's not that, but when we give the qualities of God, of ulahiyya, as they say, of divine attributes, then of course, but you won't see that at a Mawlid.
Like what sort of things would be wrong?
To say that, he's as astaghfirullah, I mean, it's kufr to say stuff like that. Right, but to say that him and Allah are the same, or he's a God, astaghfirullah, things like that. But you're not going to hear that at a Mawlid. I mean, I've never gone to any of the Mawlid, anywhere I've been, people don't say that. But some people, because they fear that's going to happen, they say it's haram. But that's not our deen. Our deen doesn't, especially when the Prophet said you can use your whole time to make salawat upon me. That would be the big scare, wouldn't it? Don't worry about remembering Allah, just make salawat upon me. Because when you make salawat upon the Prophet, you are remembering Allah Azza wa Jal. You're right.
So, is there any other ways to...
You're right, Fadl.
Is there any other ways to help distinguish it from the ways that the other religions have gone where they've sort of elevated their prophets to a higher level? Is there any way to help prevent us from going in that direction?
Yeah, that's a good question.
How do we stop it becoming like Christmas?
That's a good question. So how do we stop it? How do we stop it from becoming something like other faiths where they make their prophet a god? We follow the jama'ah. We follow the congregation as the Prophet mentioned. We don't become that lone wolf, because the reason why other faiths have gone that way is because they left the traditions. They made their own things. The Treaty of Nicaea, right? They made the deal with the Caesar at the time. These things, as long as we don't go on our own and make our own things and we stick with the jama'ah, we'll be fine, inshallah. Because it's tried and proven over centuries. No.
Just a practical application of what you're just saying. I mean, we'll have people in our lives that like to tell us how to practice our religion. This is haram. So if someone comes to us and says that, how do we actually have the interaction? Do we just leave it and let them think, or do we, some attempt to engage in that discourse, or?
Yeah, I mean, like from what we said today, you can use some of the examples that have been said that I took from the vast body of scholars that basically there aren't any scholars that don't get involved in Mawlid, really, real scholars anyway.
But should we bother?
Depends on the person. If they want to learn, so the question is, should we bother engaging with someone that says, for example, Mawlid is haram or bid'ah, whatever it might be. If the person's rational and reasonable and you can communicate with them, then why not? But if the person's just one-way traffic, the person doesn't want to listen, they just want to say what they want, then then you can only say what the Prophet or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَارِدْ عَنِ الْجَاهِلِينَ. If someone is ignorant, أَضَلَّهُ اللَّهُ عَلَىٰ عِلْمٍ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala misguided that person even though they're knowledgeable. And there's not much you can do, but make dua for that person. Wake up at tahajjud and make dua. But certainly, if you can engage in discourse, why, you can ask the question, on what basis are you saying it's haram? Things in our deen are only haram from 2 ways. Either Allah said it's haram and it's in the Qur'an, or the Prophet said it's haram and it's in the ahadith. That's it. They're the only 2 legislators. Well, Allah is the only legislator. He's the ultimate legislator, but He's given the Prophet ﷺ that capacity through the revelation. That's it. Okay? When it comes to, for example, smoking, and they say it's haram, right? Because it's detrimental. It's already tied to something that's haram. Drinking poison, for example. It's already tied to that, so it's an extension of that. Whereas the Mawlid is an extension of the remembrance of the Prophet ﷺ. How can you say that's haram? It's impossible. Someone else had a question?
A really dumb question, but will Jesus or like the Prophet like intercede for the Christians or the Jews?
So that's a good question. Will the prophet of that qawm, that people, intercede for them? Like there's, in terms of what happens in the Day of Judgment, there's heaps of different narrations, some stronger than others. But the understanding that I have from it could be incorrect as well. The understanding that I've got from it is firstly the Prophet ﷺ will intercede, and then that's his job. He'll intercede on behalf of those prophets, he'll intercede on behalf of those people. That's his job, alayhi salatu wasalam. Ana laha. That's what he says. So the intercession will come from the Prophet of Allah.
How do we distinguish Mawlid from Eid, the Eid celebrations? Because we're only having 2 Eids.
That's a good question. So how do we distinguish the Mawlid from the Eid? The Eid is Eid. This is Dhikra Mawlid Rasulullah. This is the remembrance of the... It's not an Eid. They say Eid in a colloquial sense. What's Friday? Friday is Eid. Right? Friday is also an Eid for us in that way. And it comes across in the tradition as well. The prophetic tradition is mentioned as an Eid. So, you know what I mean? It's in terms of the words that are used, they convolute the situation rather than clearing up the situation. The situation is clear. What is halal? An extension of what's halal is halal. And what's haram? An extension of what is haram is haram.
So save things like clothing, gifts, and all sorts of stuff specifically for Eid. Try not to intermingle the two.
Well, no, the righteous people, because of their love for the Prophet ﷺ, they use it as an excuse to give charity as well. They use it as an excuse to give charity. They use it like Jummah. They use it as an excuse to feed people, an excuse to also give charity. So, no, you can do that as well, but it's not Eid. There's only 2 Eids, and it's Eid al-Adha and Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Friday. There's no doubt that that's the case. But there's no prohibition on celebrations in our faith. Yeah, there's no prohibition on celebrations as long as they're done in a halal way, in a permissible way. It's not prohibited for us to celebrate and enjoy ourselves. Why wouldn't we with the Prophet ﷺ? Like, let me give it to you another way. When you see, inshallah ta'ala, the Prophet ﷺ on the Day of Judgment, how are you going to be? I want someone to tell me. It's a question that I'm asking. It's not rhetorical. Okay, let's set the scene a little bit. Yeah? The sun's here. People are sweating up to here. People are biting off they're biting their nails off to their shoulders. Children's hair's going grey. Pregnant women are giving birth to their children. It's absolute mayhem. Everyone's naked. No one notices anyone else's nakedness. And then you see the Prophet ﷺ, he calls you. Sure? How are you going to be? It's going to be a party, man. What are you talking about? It's going to be a literal party. Literally, it's going to be a party. Where do you go when he calls you? Where do you go? To him. Where? Under the where? Arsh. What do people do under the arsh of Allah? They're reclining. It doesn't say sitting. So when people are reclining, what are they doing? What? If you're not going to be happy when you see the Prophet of Allah on the Day of Judgment, inshallah, when are you going to be happy? Tell me when you're going to be happy. When? When you have a kid? Yeah, that's great. When you get married? Awesome. When you graduate? Fantastic. When you get cash? Stupendous. But no, you're not going to be happier than that time. Those people under the arsh of Allah are reclining. People who recline, they're partying. For use of a colloquialism. How can you not be happy when you mention the Prophet's name, ﷺ? How can you not be happy? He loves you more than you love yourself. He wants more benefit for you than you want for yourself. How can you not be happy to see someone like that? When someone did you a favor once upon a time and you see that person, you don't get happy? They helped you out and from a hard situation, they advised you, dropped you up, picked you up, gave you money, told you to go see that person. You don't imagine the person is going to save you from hellfire. He's interceding from the ghadab of Allah. Of course you're going to be happy. How are you not going to celebrate? But because we don't have a dhawq, yeah? We read black and white, black and white, black and white, black and white, black. We never understand what it means to love the Prophet ﷺ. We never understand what it means for him to intercede for us on the Day of Judgment. We never understand what it means to see him on the Day of Judgment. He's got a liwa, he's got a big flag. To be under that flag. If you get a hold of that flag on the Day of Judgment, what are you going to do? Don't just stare at me like stunned mullets. Hey, exactly. You gotta wave the flag. Yeah? Of course. Of course. That's our deen. That's who it is. That's what it is to... How can I not love someone like that? That's the reality. Because we have no flavour for it, or those people talking about it in particular have no flavour. Oh no, Habibi, go do what you want. Go. See if it gets you in. See if it gets you in. Good luck to you. I prefer to follow those that have come before me, that have a connection to the Prophet ﷺ better than I do, that showed the way. And they're a vast number compared to those who are against. No.
Sorry.
That's okay.
When we talk about, like, he's going to intercede for us, Joel, there's obviously a portion of Muslims that go to the Hellfire. I can't understand how that works. He's going to intercede for us, but some still go to Hellfire.
Alright, so the Prophet's going to intercede. Some people are going to go to Hellfire. Now there's a lot of different theories about that. The theory that, after reading all the different opinions, what I think is the Day of Judgment is 1,000, 50,000 years. For that period, those people will be in the Hellfire because of what they did. That those people have to be cleansed, because no one can enter the Hellfire unless they have basically the disposition, the prophetic disposition. That's basically heaven. Excuse me. No one can go to heaven unless they have. That's why we drink from his hand, and we change completely, and we're happy, and we never we never get thirsty after that. We basically hit that level, right? Basically, how he was in this world, ELISA. Basically, it's not exactly, but we become different people, right? We take the form of Sayyidina Adam and the akhlaq of the Prophet in that sense, right? So those that aren't to that level, they have to be purified. Those believers that aren't to that level, they have to be like someone, the hadith, this clear hadith, that person said La ilaha illallah once sincerely from their heart. That's all they did. The rest of the time, debauchery, alcoholism, whatever. Okay, that person has to be purified. So that person's purified, and that time, at the whole time, what's the Prophet doing? He's interceding for that person. The whole time. Saying, Ya Allah, what about that person? Ya Allah, that person. Ya Allah, that person. So Allah, the ghadab comes down of Allah, and then Allah pulls the person out and takes them to Jannah. Alright? Tamam? Like, it's party, man. Don't you want to party? This is it. Rabi al-Awwal. If you're not happy when the Prophet's name is mentioned, you're not happy when you go to a Mawlid, how are you going to be happy on the Day of Judgment? How? How are you going to recline? So, I know I'm making it that, but that's really how it is. That's really how it is. Any questions about any of those things? الله سبحانه وتعالى يوفقكم يرفع درجاتكم يجعل هذا الشهر مبارك عليكم وعلى أهليكم وعلى أمهاتكم وآبائكم وأقاربكم وجيرانكم والأمة أجمع وسائر الخلق أجمع إن شاء الله عز وجل. الله سبحانه وتعالى يجعلنا متوصلين به عليه الصلاة والسلام متبعين له ولسنته ومحبوبين عنده ونحبه أكثر من نحب أنفسنا. ونسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى يتقبل منا. We ask Allah to accept us and elevate our status. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make the Prophet ﷺ the most beloved thing to us and make us beloved to the Prophet ﷺ and to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this blessed month to make us those people who truly emulate the Prophet ﷺ, to make us those people that truly love the Prophet ﷺ and who get his intercession, and to recline with the Prophet ﷺ on the Day of Judgment and to drink from his hand, from his hawd, that will never be thirsty after that, inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah to give us a place with the Prophet of Allah in Jannah, near the Prophet of Allah in Jannah, that we see the Prophet every day, inshallah, bi khairin wa lutfin wa afiyah, wa ila hadrat al-nabi bi sirri al-fatiha.